Evening all, we are live. Hopefully we got a better connection than we had last time. So who have we got in the room? We've got Mr. Ross Kendall in the room. Wonder if have you fixed that mini engine yet, Ross? Mr. Andy Pipe, yeah, polishing a race car. And we got Unique Classics from Greece. Well, that's a good start because we've got Norfolk, Essex, and Greece in the room. So how you doing, guys? Right, evening. So what most interests you from this week? Lincolnshire. Well, yeah, kind of on the border, really, isn't it? Yeah. I kind of think of you, Ross, when I get up near Kings Lynn Way. Or Sutton Bridge, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, so what interested you out of this week? You like snippets of Pinto, full cross flows, two similar engines, and all rusty old Rovers. David here from the USA. Oh, hi, David. Whereabouts in the USA are you? I know there's some big time differences, so I guess it could be the early morning or middle of the night, depending where you are. And Tugs is in the room. Hi, yeah. East London, Essex. Where it wouldn't be any good without near Detroit. Wouldn't be any good without someone from Essex. All right. Okay. Yeah. Near Detroit in Michigan. Okay. Right. Kai. So, usually what I try and do is start a subject and say, I'm going to talk about this. And you'll want to talk about something else anyway. So, who's going to start hitting us up with questions? Failing that, I'm just going to start talking about cross flows and why we had two near identical cross flows that made different power. 5 horsepower doesn't sound a lot, but when you've only got 120 to 125 is about the same. Is quite a difference. So, yeah. And Ross here says he's going to try and get his Escort on the road this year. Yeah, that's cool. For any of you that don't know, there Ross has got I believe a 3.9 V8 Rover and he's a lovely Mark 1 Escort. Ross Page says cam timing. Would you still play with a vernier? Yes, yes, Ross. I think where you can, it's well worth swinging cams on verniers. On the cross flows, it's a bit more fiddly, but I've done it and I don't seem to find a big difference. And I've done it on Volkswagen ABF engines, and again, I don't seem to find a great deal of difference there. But the Pintos, it's almost anyone's guess where it actually wants it. So I think absolutely, if you're in a position, you've got an engine on the dyno or the rolling road, then you can tweak the cam timing on the vernier. Absolutely, absolutely should. Right. And Unique Classics says, what happened to the 2.3 Pinto with 230 horsepower? Well, I built it. It's out there working. I just haven't made the video yet. Sorry, guys. It's coming. It's coming. Well, the truth is I turned the 230 horsepower into 250 horsepower. That's the real truth, isn't it? But I need to make the video. I've nearly caught up with videos. Yeah. Cool. Right. Mechanics and Motorsport says he's in the process of building a 2.1 Pinto with a Newman BHP 30 cam and twin Weber 40s. What sort of power could you expect? Stock head, modified head? If the head's stock, you've got a reasonable amount of compression in, you get it right. 135, perhaps 140 horsepower. So, yeah. But, so much depends on cylinder head and compression. And Mr. Ross Kendall here is talking about Austin 1100s. Yeah, you're showing your age if you know what Austin 1100 is. Austin 1100, which if you got A series engine, 47 horsepower. That's pretty good for 1100, 10.8cc A series, I think. Mechanics and Motorsport says light porting and 40,000 off the head. Yeah, I would have thought you'll be 100, getting close on 140. All right. Dave Romansky says Ford 5 litre makes 500 horsepower, 12 to 1 compression. Okay. Is this? Are we talking a 302? It seems Pinto or other engines need 12 to 1 compression to make 100 horsepower per litre. Yeah, well, to be honest, almost all 2-valve engines suffer from a lack of breathing capability. So, yeah, to get 100 horsepower per litre, you need knocking on 12 to 1 compression. And some of that is because the cam you need to go with it. Because if you're going to make a big load of horsepower, you need enough cam to make it rev. The wilder cam, the more compression you need to make the cam work. Mechanics and Motorsport, again, he's talking about Pinto here. Would you gain much by switching to 45? Probably, yes. A few years back, I ran a bog standard 2-litre Pinto. I mean, totally standard on a pair of 40s. And switching to 45s, I picked up 3 horsepower. But when you're up more than that, the gains will be bigger. Unique Classic and Modified Car says 250 horsepower from this Pinto. If you compare it with a YB on the same power displacement, which would you believe better is in a road car, track day, hill climb? I don't think there's a lot in it. To get 250 horsepower from Pinto needs some serious work and a very, very serious cylinder head. But then to get 250 horsepower out of a YB, now, is the YB turbo? Is the YB naturally aspirated? If it's turbocharged, 250 horsepower doesn't sound a lot, but it will come with a shed load of torque. So, but if both engines are naturally aspirated, I don't think there's a lot in it. Beetle says he has trouble getting his CVH over 80 horsepower per litre. Yeah. Well, yeah. I remember when the CVH came out that everyone slated them because people had trouble trying to tune them, but eventually we learned, and because initially everyone said, well, they're rubbish, they're no better than a crossflow. But yeah, people learned to tune them, although these days we're still tuning crossflows and the CVH is all but dead. Nice engine on the holding screen. Oh, Paul, yes, yeah. Oh, well, yeah. You're biased. You would. Ross has chimed in here that I said the headed did mean was about 8 horsepower more on 45s than 48s. Yeah. Depends how much head and cam and everything else you've got. If you're only at 140 horsepower, there's not a massive difference between 40s and 45s, but the further up the food chain you get, the bigger the difference. Yeah. David says, have I ever tried E85 in a 200 horsepower Pinto, and what were the results? Not in a Pinto. I have run E85 in BMW M10s and S14s with and without turbos. E85 in a naturally aspirated engine doesn't seem to do much. E85 on a forced induction engine is a whole different kettle of fish. I had an engine on the rollers that made 410 odd horsepower on super unleaded. The same engine on E85 was nudging 500. So turbocharged, yes, naturally aspirated, not a lot. Unique classic modified car says NA. Okay, so we're talking 250 pinto, 250 horsepower pinto, 250 horsepower YB. Same displacement. Tough one. That my guess is the pinto will probably make more lower down grunt. The YB probably revs better, but I think there's very little in it, to be honest. Steve Cos says he loved the last crossflow video. What extra power would it made with a big valve head? Right now, I've got to think here because not much. Going big valves on a crossflow doesn't seem to do a great deal. In fact, this doesn't really answer your question, but in terms of the last one I showed, which made 125 brake horsepower versus the previous one, which was about 120, in there, I'd say the bigger difference was the 125 horsepower engine had roller rockers in it. And I don't think the roller rockers themselves made extra power. But when I checked both engines and measured valve lift, the one that had the standard full valve train didn't make the quoted valve lift, whereas the one with the roller rockers actually exceeded it. And I think that, and the roller rockers were standard ratio, but I think the difference between that is just that the roller rockers were new and gave the correct ratio, whereas the Ford ones were old, they'd been refaced, and being standard, there was more variation between them than the Burton ones gave. Next question here. What are my thoughts on exhaust anti-reversion mods? Well, most exhausts have them to an extent, but surely the step between the exhaust port and a big bore manifold is an anti-reversion step in itself, is it not? I've not back-to-backed it, and I've not run an anti-reversion manifold myself, so I can't actually say. But I think it's one of those things that it can make a difference, but I don't think it makes a huge difference. And I think getting everything else right probably makes more difference. And in all probability, the anti-reversion stuff probably only works at certain points in the rev range. Quick discussion on E85 going on. Yeah, what is E85? Yeah, like Rob says, it's basically ethanol fuel. E85, it's 85% ethanol, 15% petrol. Other parts of the world, such as Brazil, they run E100, which is 100% ethanol. You can get in other various mixes. We did briefly have it in the UK, but it doesn't anymore. The thing with ethanol is it's hard to start engines on it when they're cold. So hence some petrol added. The 15% petrol makes it possible to start them cold, which is why in Brazil, in their hot climate, they can run E100. But it's good for forced induction because it's real good at charge calling, and it's got high octane rating. So parts of the world where you can buy ET5 off the shelf at the pump, it's good because it basically makes dirt cheap race fuel. Paul Kemp says, yeah, Paul, thanks. Paul Kemp says he sent me a message with a link to Rovercraft. Yeah, you're right. Looks like they did some good stuff. Not much crops up, but then I suspect that's because they died off so long before the internet got going. Because most of what I found were people asking about what a rovercraft RC87 camshaft was. Those were most of the hits I got. I didn't get much in the way of answers. Ross says, were they not re-80 I don't think so, but then you might find see, V8 man, that's a chap named Ray up near Spalding Way, isn't it? V8 Developments. Rovertech also rings a bell. I don't know, but the thing is, sometimes with some of these firms, someone leaves and it goes off somewhere else, and the person carries with them, rather than, you know, it's not necessarily the company changed. It's just that maybe a person went off and branched off and did their own thing. You know, I myself, I can talk about stuff that my mate did down in his shop opposite Lock in Leytonstone, and I used to work for George off and on. So I can talk about that place, and I know stuff that went on, but I'm not opposite Lock, although to some I might be. Hi from New Zealand. I love the content. Yeah. Thanks for joining in. I'm guessing it's pretty early in the morning out there. I bought some anti-roll bars from a company in New Zealand whose name escapes. Bygone Classics. Yes, Bygone Classics. And I remember sitting up to about 11 o'clock in the night. So, Andy Pipes back in. Rovertech built some high-power engines for the Falcon modified saloons back in the 1990s. Yeah, well, because you were there, battling with them in your then yellow Mark 1 school. Till Ray broke it. Rovertech, yes. Get a breather now. Right. Yeah, so where am I now? Yes, the last video I put out was Crossflow, which was finished before the Group 1 Escort. So in theory, the next video I might will be some of the 250 horsepower Pinto one, if I can find all the footage, because it's now buried, very buried. But all I can tell you is it seemed to go quite well. Today I've been mostly measuring up camshafts on this Rovercraft to try and work out what we've got in there. Since you can Google all you like and you don't find an RC 87 cam, I think it was. But it appears an RC 87 cam is around about 270 degree duration, so probably good for 200-ish horsepower and power to about 5,500 RPM. In case you missed one of the shorts, I've recently had the dyno in bits, so it's got some new bearings in it, and I've mounted up a completely bone stock Pinto that we're going to have a bit of play with. And if the engine and the dyno works properly, I'm going to do a cam swap and a head. Hi from Raj, Auto Flock Motorsport. Says, learning a lot from dyno vids. He builds 4-stroke single-cylinder go-kart engines as a hobby. Yeah, cool. Yeah, 4-strokes. 2-strokes were never my thing, so I'll get more excited about 4-strokes. But some of the 2-stroke technology and the pistons that do that in the bore and the common knocker engines that do that is really, mad stuff. So Jane Woodin says, have I had much experience with pre-crossflows? Most people seem to prefer earlier cam profiles, Cosmic 8 with lower lift, higher duration, I think, over the newer cams. Wonder why. Yeah, I've not done a lot with them myself, but I think you'll find that pre-crossflows don't work with high valve lift. So a little bit of valve lift and the airflow goes up, and then you get beyond 300, 350 thou, maybe 400, and airflow just stalls. So there's no point having a lot of lift in a pre-crossflow because airflow doesn't go up. So you need more valve timing if you can't have more lift. Rubber RS210 says off-the-shelf heads for Pinto. Who is the better ones? New valves, guides, porting. I don't know. I'm not particularly up to date on that. All I can say is that Vulcan have a good name, but the Burton CNC heads, which are actually done by Rick Wood, probably represent damn good value for money. To be honest, I can't modify one, port one for the cost of a head from Burton's, even if the prices have gone up. But I do know that's because Rick Wood put his prices up. Right. Tug says, did the last X-Flow need pockets in the pistons with the 224 cam? No, it didn't. No. I didn't take a great deal off the block. But no, it didn't. It had bags of room. I could have probably decked the block a lot harder. Ross Kendall's asking about rule of thumb, how much power is lost between the engine and the wheels. Some use a percentage figure, and I got told in minis I use 24 horsepower, but that would be a loss of 30%. Well, some of that's going to depend on whether you've got a single roller dyno or a twin roller dyno. Because a lot of the losses are actually the tire contact patches on the rollers. So, I mean, a lot used to say it was like 15% or so. But although there are people that say it doesn't change the percentage, there must be something of percentage there. But because the more load you put in through everything, there must be more deflection. So, you know, if you percentage-wise, I can't see it doesn't change somewhat depending how much power. Right. Unit Classics Modified Car says, on camshaft profiles, I see the two duration numbers, inlet exhaust. One says 1 millimeter lift. What's the difference between the two duration numbers? Yeah, I mean, it all depends on where you're measuring the valve lift from. Because it's really hard to pinpoint the exact point to which a valve starts to move. So you could try and measure it from the moment it starts to move, or from when it's 1 millimeter open, or 50 thou open, which is like millimeter and a quarter. So obviously, the more open the valve is before you start taking the figures, the bigger differences you're going to get. The trouble is when people come cam time, because it's kind of I won't say meaning this, but I think some cam timing figures and certainly power bands quoted are somewhat strange. I mean, most engines I run do see you pick a cam and the cam manufacturer says it revs to 8,000, and you think, well, it doesn't. It dies off at 6.5, 7. So I think a lot of them quote the extreme upper end that the cam might possibly work at, but in reality, a few do. Strange anomaly that if you look at Kent Cam's V8 Rover profiles, most of the engines actually work at higher RPM than the cam catalog suggests. I think all the milder ones, if you look what the cam catalog suggests, that the engines will run into a brick wall at 4.5, and they don't. Gov FTT says he think rear wheel escorts 100 horsepower at the flywheel or about 74 at the rear wheels. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I haven't done much rolling road stuff for a long while, and I'm trying to remember what some of my cars used to lose. And I'm struggling, but I do remember Dave Walker always said if he got a Ford Escort on the rollers, if it made 110 horsepower at the wheels at 5,000, it was going to be a good car. And that's still kind of a benchmark. Ross, if you had a 200 horsepower Escort on a rolling road, I wouldn't expect to lose 52 horsepower in the transmission. $52 horsepower would be a lot to lose from 200. We've got SRT from Texas in the room. Hi there, Texas. What do we ride? What's hot in Texas? SR2, would that be a Camaro of some sort or Challenger? I'm not particularly hot in US cars, but that'd be my guess. Because I know there aren't many full Pintos, V8 Rovers, or full Crossflows in the States. But I wish we had the parts availability. Dodge, yeah, of course, yeah. Of course, it would be handy. We wish we could have some of the parts availability you guys have got. And it's interesting because the guys in South Africa go, "Oh, you're sport for choice, you're sport for parts." But we pay through the nose for what we have here compared to anything stateside. Cosworth Vega. Wow, Ross, you're yes. You didn't make many of them, did they? Shame, really. I think that was probably a good engine that was perhaps in the wrong car. If I remember rightly, and I could be wrong, I think the Cosworth Vega was fuel injected. I don't suppose a big pair of side drafts would ever got through any emission limits stateside. At one time, the USA had more 350 cubic inch Chevys than cars. Okay, well, yeah, I mean, because I actually, yeah, I mean, is that because you were made so many crate engines and stuff, and obviously people tend to scrap cars but keep engines, so yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Ross, I think you're right. I think yes, yeah, I think that's why. I mean, emission stuff kills everything. You know, that's why modern cars, unless they're strapped with a turbocharger, don't actually make substantially more power than their old school counterparts and two-star. Wow. Well, for those that are not from the UK, two-star refer to low lead petrol that died out here. I don't know, a long while ago. I think two-star petrol disappeared from the UK in about 1978, I think. Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there are more. Yeah. There are 350 Chevys in America than we have got cars over here. Yeah. Well, we're only a little island. We're only a little island. David Rowansky says there's no emissions tested on cats in Michigan. They eliminated 15 years ago. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So in your car that you can drive around Michigan with no cats or no emission testing, can you drive off and go elsewhere? Can you go to other states? Is that legal? Paul Kemp says he remembers 3, 3, 4, and 5-star. Now, interestingly, I can remember 2-star, but I don't actually remember 5-star. Other than all the stickers in all the backs of the Rovers, that's 10-to-1 compression said, you can't run it on 4-star, or you got retarded ignition. Back in the real world, Aaron Stone says, looking forward to stock Pinto videos. He has an 87 Sierra with a Pinto and a Mark II Escort, which now needs rebuilding. Decided what mods to wait while they're there. Head cam, compression, porting. Yeah, okay. Okay, so you could leave it. Okay, so you couldn't, presumably, if your car's registered in Michigan, there's no emission testing. You can go anywhere you like, including Florida, where you can't fart without a catalytic converter, I guess. Yes. But I do know you can't import a modified car into the States. I did a car for a client here, and we had to make sure it looked bone stock, or they wouldn't let it into the country. So, Aaron, with your Escort with its 87 Pinto engine, pure road car. I mean, that's the thing to do. Pure road car. If it is a pure road car, what you're looking to do with it. If it's just road use and you like a quite civilized life, then yeah, mild cam, bit of porting, a little bit more compression, and yeah, best 135, 140 horsepower is easy. After that, it gets expensive and noisy. I've got to say that being a secret fan of Roadkill and some of the other online programs in America are kind of amazing. How you can just some of the stuff you guys can get away with and cool road cars and still drive. SRT says, question about an intake for a 2. Yeah, finish the question. I'll try and answer. Right. John Thomas says, evening, Graham. Did you ever do anything with a 2.9 V6 clone engine? Any cam recommendations? In a word, no. It's not an engine I've ever done anything with. But I mean, it's being as the 2.9 had 6-port heads and didn't have the Siamese intake, it should respond really well to a cam and a bit of head work. Yeah, Aaron says stock at the moment. Yeah. You kind of need to decide whether you kind of need to decide where you need to go power wise, and then work it that way, or perhaps even budget first. Ross says, yeah, we've got roadworthy exempt cars here now, as long as they're 40 years old. Yeah, but I think they've changed the law on that, but we were heading down the route that if you start doing mad modifications, you started losing your vehicle ID. Okay. We're built by Bagsy. It says you just stumbled in. It's 7 a.m. Wednesday here in Oz. Okay, yeah, cool. Well, it's 8 p.m. Tuesday here. David Romancy says, what are my thoughts and benefits of 3-angle valve jobs on Pinto engines? His experience is stock or modified Pintos respond well. I think it depends how much valve lift you got, to be honest, because it's mainly only at the low. It's mainly only at the low valve lifts. Multi angles really makes much of a difference. Yeah, I think it's something that's overrated. And to be honest, if you're going to go for it, better than a multi-angle is a fully radius seat. So, rather than perhaps multi-angles, if you can't cut 3 angles, set with your 45 degree, you just radius the edges. That's, that's probably as good. I wasn't aware there was such a thing. As far as I'm aware, all the 32, 36 Pinto manifolds were the same. Yeah, Beetle. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, a multi-angle job does help flow, but then 1 or 2 CFM flow doesn't always equate to power. It's one of the things that I've seen big jumps on the float bench, only to find on the rolling road or the engine dyno we don't see it as power numbers. So, no. We've got another question here for Pintos. Have I ever tested the Burton big valve head with a high torque cam? No, I haven't, but I think it would give results. The thing is that unlike some engines, there seems to be no downside to having big valves in a Pinto. And I think the thing is that if you put a bigger valve in and the flow goes up a bit, you can lose airspeed and possibly torque. But if you put a big valve in and you gain a big chunk of flow, generally airspeed carries up. So I've not done it. I probably will at some point. But I would have thought a high torque cam in a Pinto big valve head would work quite well. I've used high torque cams with big valve heads, just not a Burton one. Tug says, didn't I say the back of a valve is important on a Pinto video once using RSC valves? Yeah, well, the thing with a Pinto is that if your valve is here like this, or like that, the air wants to rush straight across the back of the valve. The air doesn't want to go around the corner. So the flatter the back of the valve and a little bit of radius on it, you're helping the air going where it naturally wants to. Unit Classic and Modified Cars says, is it true that if someone installed a camshaft kit on a Pinto, but with a lot of valve lift, that would create issues on the valve train? Yes, no, maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, the more you open the valve, the more load you're putting on everything. So, yes, you're more likely to wear things out. But that said, yeah, compared to a stock cam, I think anything high lift is more likely to wear faster. But providing your valve geometry is somewhere in the ballpark, I mean somewhere, and there are people that say the rockers have to be absolutely level. I don't think it makes that much difference. I think being kind to the cam, bedding in, and plenty of lubrication, and making sure you're not coil bound and you have sufficient but not excessive seat pressure, I think all of those will make much bigger difference than just a lot of lift. SRT says it was given to him by manifold was given to AK Miller in 1971. Okay, 2 to 3 runners on the plenum on the outside. Okay, yes, I can see that trying to even it up. Because from here, this side of the pond, AK Miller isn't really known. But he did do Pinto turbo manifolds, and we probably all know that because we all saw David Vizard in his book testing Pinto turbos with AK Miller manifolds. Mega Red Evil says, what is the highest peak of power figure that a Pinto can produce? Seen 250 quoted is possible, just untrue. Well, I can only say what I've seen personally, and I've seen 235 from an iron head, and from an alley Pinto head, I've seen 251, 252. So if I've seen those numbers, you can bet your bottom dollar there's someone out there that's seen bigger numbers than that. So yeah, but you don't build a 250 horsepower Pinto just by going through the parts catalog and grabbing bits and chucking it together. It will be multiple goes and tries to try and get there. Cool. Another comment. Hi, just wanted to say, enjoyed the videos over the years. We built many Ford engines, but always love learning. Yeah. Last 2 engine builds been this month. 2.9 V6 Cosworth and 1700 Crossflow. Yeah. Again, I've never really done anything with a 2.9 24 valve Cosworth. I did help install one in a Mark III Cortina once and wire it in for him. That was good. Unit class best oil for a modified Pinto. Well, I mean, I run them all on 2050. I guess to a certain extent, it depends what you're doing. Arguably, perhaps 1550, which is actually better on startup because it's thinner cold and will lubricate faster sooner. I don't think it makes much difference. Another comment, Vizard had 425 Pinto from a turbo Pinto. I think he saw even more than that. But I think he did say at 400 horsepower, the block starts going, ooh, jelly shape and wobbly and, yeah, difficult. Yes. Yeah, Andy, well, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Let's see if we can find you some more horsepower, but, some headline figures perhaps. SRT 1749 says, I would have had 1 or 4 running lean, and yes, I was running a turbo. It did even out the fuel distribution. All stem. Yeah, well, that makes sense because that manifold probably somewhat corrected for firing order. Dale, hi Graham, tuned in, but late, sorry, that's fine. Yeah, catch up. Yeah, I mean, it should. I believe this all uploads it and you can watch it later on. And yeah, it's good. I like the fact that more of you join in, the more of the community and the more learning thing it is, because I like it as a two-way thing. Graham, there was Graham says, David Romansky says, Graham, tell SRT that it was a side draft individual runner Del Auto manifold sold at Ford dealers with a part number for a Pinto, sold in a side draft manifold. Yeah, okay, yeah, probably. Or David, if he's on a PC, he can read these messages. I think. Built by Bagsy says, using another Haltech would be easier, although I used to have an old T04 with SU drawback 25 years ago and joined the challenge. I know it makes no sense. Okay, yeah. Tugs, thing with older engines, they need good shear protection. New oils excel that this compared to old oils. Yeah. But I think the other thing is that especially for engines that stand around a long while, you want an oil that clings really well. So that when your classic sits in your garage for weeks or sometimes months at a time, when you go to start it up, yes, you want the oil pressure to come up quickly, but you actually want some oil stuck to the camshaft to pre-lube rather than just wait for the oil pressure to come up. If there's still oil stuck to the cam, it's already got a helping hand. Whereas I think a lot of the synthetic stuffs run off and they're nearly dry on startup. 400 horsepower per turbo pinto isn't a problem. Well, yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can take an engine and make it produce 200 horsepower, which is fairly easy at a Pinto, if you double atmospheric pressure, so shove a bar of boost in, you should pretty much double the power output. So, yeah, 200 to 400 horsepower shouldn't be that difficult. Part of the reason for timing belts change is shearing the oil. Yeah. Not quite sure where that question to go. I mean, a lot of modern engines have trouble with timing chains. And I think that's because they're really fiddly tiddly little things. Some of them look like more like they belong to a cuckoo clock than an engine. But car manufacturers all change it all too long. And that's why you see so many chain failures in modern cars. Paul Kemp says, a friend has a Mustang 390 GT, put alloy heads on it, made 211 brake horsepower, I believe, with 208 stock. Headers were almost flat against the inner wing. Yeah, Paul, I imagine the cam's the biggest issue there. Because at the end of the day, if it's a modern car, it's probably got to meet ignition regulations, and therefore you can't have lots of overlap. So probably if you was to put a cam in it, I imagine you'd see a huge jump in power. Dale says he's got AccuSump fitted to his Mark II for pre-oiling as a safety device. So word help you. Yes, yeah. Paul Evans said, any advice on buying a 2-litre Pinto for rally? Difficult one, because most people selling engines aren't what they're cracked up to be. If you're going to buy someone, then you really want to try in the car first, and that's not likely to happen. For rally, were we talking road rally, stage rally? Small bore Ashley 421, decent big valve head from the likes of Burton's and a BF63 cam, pair of 45s, you'll be up somewhere near 180 horsepower if you screw it together right. Okay, Andy Pipe says 350 GT Mustangs are a bastard to work on. Okay, right. Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully we won't upset the YouTube censors with that. You never know. Got an icon down here. Yeah. Right. What? I guess what I should. Oh, right. I've just found some optional things. Yeah, now if you're talking if you're talking Mustangs, sorry, it's a bit of a cliche, and I don't like tribute cars, but you know, yeah, if I was to have a Mustang, I think Paul's right. You want in the bullet evergreen color, whatever it was, privet hedge. Is it better to have an iron head and an iron block on an engine, or an iron block with an alley head? Well, I think iron head, iron block are more stable. So you've got something that's much less likely to warp and blow gaskets and things, iron and iron. But then alley is a lot lighter. So, you know, yeah, a lot lighter. But power-wise, there isn't really any, you know, from a tuning aspect, from terms of making the maximum horsepower, it makes a little difference what you've got. Except that if you're truly after performance, then probably alley's better because it's lighter. Yeah, we're back on Mustangs again, because Andy Pipe says 67 in bullet trim. Yeah, you know, yeah, that would be a bit of a go-to car for me if I could. But yeah, nearest I'd probably get was the Mark II Capri I had in the 1980s. Daytona yellow. Seemed a cool car at the time. Seemed a fast car at the time. It's Pinto, and it's 38D gas carb that we now know gave no extra more power, but you know, seemed to at the time. This says, hi, I had a Mark II XR2 that had an X-Hill climb, HT built, CVH. That was going. I think, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Aaron really got to the hang of CVHs. Aaron Tucker. I think he really got the hang of building them. So I think most of the really good CVHs came out of HD racing. Okay, we've got conversation going on in the background still. Mustangs. Mustang, no. Charger, oh, yeah. Picked up Crossflow A2 cam within. Benefits an A2 cam. It's a bit like a BCF2 in a Crossflow, really. Yeah, A2 cam worked. Again, the A2 cam was probably a hotter cam in a pre-Crossflow than it is a Crossflow. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Andy Pipe. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember. Andy Pipe's talking at Jason Watkins' Fiesta. Jason Watkins had a Mark II XR2, HT Racing built, CVH in it, and that went well. I can remember racing against that. My car was quicker. I don't know if your Escort was quicker than Jason's Fiesta, but my BMW certainly was. Ross says, are there any BMW race stuff in the pipeline? Well, yeah, but the pipeline's bunged up because I keep doing other people's engines and stuff. But I need to get the E30 engine in bits, or at least get on with the 3-litre, because I've run the E30 for about 10 years now without an engine refresh, and yeah, oil pressure is not that critical, but it's low now, so it's low enough. I don't want to run it anymore, because you know, I really want to rod out through the side of the block, and because I've still got a 2002 I need to build. So yes, Ross, there is BMW stuff in the pipeline. I just, Yeah, I need to change something. Maybe I need to work a 4-day week so I can have a day a week on the cars. But then I don't think that's going to happen. Tugs, that was when BMW. Yeah, I mean you're right. I mean M10s, S14s, M20s. They were good, strong engines. Yeah, I think the modern stuff's all a bit flimsy. But then I think you can say that of all manufacturers. Yeah, look at Ford EcoBooms. Well, to be honest, I'm here 7 days a week most days, unless I'm a race circuit scrutineering. But yes, so yeah, I'd like to do it. I'd like to do a 4-day week and a day on my own stuff. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but you never know. My wife is pinging me messages. Apparently, the dog is confused because it seems he's watching me on telly. That's what I can. Well, you can tell the dog there's only 6 minutes left, so I'll be home soon. Eco boom. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're a braver man than me if you're going to build an eco boom to go racing. That's all I can say. Because my experience is when the belts aren't falling off, 2 degrees too much temperature, and they've cracked their heads. Kind of a throwaway engine, really. But what do I know? Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm not. Years ago, I wanted to do all the latest and greatest, but I'm too old for that now. I'm not really bothered about doing new stuff. And to be honest, I'm still learning about the old stuff. So I don't need to get into eco booms as well. Yeah, I'll see you later, Ross. Thanks for joining us. And, it's only took you 3 months to catch up again, but yeah, I'll see you in a while. Yeah. Yeah, Andy Pipes correctly. There's quite a few eco booms running in the modified Fords. Yeah, and they do go boom. Yeah, it pulled straight off the road. You've pulled your eco boom off the road, fully built it, ductile liners, and a closed deck head. Well, that'll stop the head gasket blowing, possibly. It won't stop the head cracking, though, but fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for you, mate. Yeah. But yeah, they do go well, and the benefit them. Some of the race series I run, there's 1 or 2. Tommy Valentine runs one, and yeah, that goes well. And he runs that where they're limited power to weight ratio. But the great thing is being turbocharged, you can build a whole load of torque in the mid range, and then you just take the torque out again. So it's got massive torque and no real headline horsepower. So fast as hell. Des says his first car was a 78 850 Mini, had 3 years, a rattling time and chain bolted, it still ran. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we hear so many engines here every day in the workshop. You start them up, you the chains, stick your fingers in the ear while the oil pressure comes up. But yeah, and then if the chains don't fall off, then the owners get fed up with all the warning lamps on from cam synchronization errors. So yeah, not that long. Certainly not years and years like an old Mini would have run with a rattling chain. That's for sure. My, we're almost out of time now, guys. Oh, so this has been brilliant. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Right. So, for any of you still here, do you think 7:30 is the right time? I chose 7:30 to leave it as or put it this way, I chose 7:30 to be so we were kind of late enough in the evening that most people have done what they wanted to do and were settled down, but not so late it was getting deep into the evening. So, you know, if you've maybe let me know. Maybe do we need to be earlier? Should we be here? Should we start at 7, finish at 8? I'm not going to start at 8 and finish at 9, but you know, was 7:30 a good time? Well, it can't have been bad because a shed load of you joined in today. So I've got to say, yeah, thanks. That's been brilliant. Love to read the comments. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, let's say that's why for me, I thought it's good for you on the other side of the planet. Well, yeah, I'll work this. Yeah. Tug says, what videos are coming up? Right. Well, the 250 horsepower Pinto when I make it. What haven't I done anything on? There's the Rovercraft engines in the pipeline. Obviously, some Pinto testing. Allegedly, I've got a 200 mile an hour MGB project with a twin turbo V8. So I could make videos on that, but these are some straight line race motorbike videos. But you know, I now haven't made the video for the engine I built 6 or 9 months ago. So if I wander off too far afield, then we'll never get anything done. Right, cool. Right, it is 8:30 now. I do need to go home. See the wife, kiss the dog. No. Kiss the wife, see the dog. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks for joining in, and I'll catch you all next month. First, yeah, it won't be December then, won't it? So that will be. See if I can see. I can't see the date here, but yeah. So yeah. Anyway, Tuesday 7:30, same time. Yeah, whatever the first Tuesday in December is, anyway. So yeah. Thanks for all your input, guys, and I'll catch you next month. You can always, you know, leave a comment, and you can chat amongst yourselves on any of the threads. It's good to see the interaction between you all. Right. Thanks for joining. I'll catch you later.